Hey guys, it's Seid.
I'm Mike.
My name is Parker, and we're the Tryhards. Welcome back, everyone, to what I believe is this episode 7 already?
Mm-hmm.
Indeed it is.
Episode 7 of the Try Hard podcast. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, we are all three 20-year-old triathletes. Seid and Mike are my athletes. I am a coach with NVDM Coaching, and here on this podcast, we just like to talk about all things related to triathlon. Last week, we had a special guest, Steven, come on, talk about his experience at Clash Miami, the the very first T100 race, so that was a lot of fun. But usually, and as you'll see in this episode, we just kind of talk about our weekends of training and anything else that we see in the triathlon world. So I think the plan is for today, we talk about the last weekend of training, which was during the week of the T100 Clash Miami special. And then Mike and Seid, I know you guys kind of wanted to talk about the Lionel Sanders video.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The 5 swim tips for learning how to swim. So we plan on diving into that. But before we do, as always, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this podcast, the Naperville Acupuncture Center. If you're in the Chicagoland area and are looking to get some dry needling or acupuncture done, I cannot recommend them enough. I've been going to go see Frank and Angela every week for the past couple of months, and they have been key in keeping me healthy and enabling me to elevate my training. As a special offer, if you mention my name or this podcast during your visit, you'll receive a discount on your very first treatment. All right, back to the show. All right, who wants to kick us off with their weekend of training? I know Mike and Seid, you guys had kind of similar weekends, but not too similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll kick us off. Well, on the weekend, let's see. So Saturday, Sade and I both had a pretty similar workout, except I did not have a run off the bike, but I believe Sade, you did.
Yep.
But to start the day, starting off early in the morning, we had an Ironman prep swim. That was 30 by 100 and trying to pick a base interval that you felt comfortable coming in at and getting about 15 seconds rest and then going after it again. And this one, I was targeting about 120 for the working interval, 15 seconds rest. So base interval 135 per 100, but ended up averaging 117. So that was good. And I did not do mine in a wetsuit. I know that Seid, you were supposed to do yours in the wetsuit, mainly because I've got a lot of time before my next race, so I didn't really feel like overheating in my wetsuit that morning. But then right after that, do a kind of almost like a swim bike brick, and it was a 3-hour ride simulating the Ironman Texas course. The first 3 hours of the course, kind of built out by Best Bike Split, and that was pretty good. Didn't have any issues with that. It was a little different, and I guess it was pretty good at simulating like the feeling of outdoor, because I feel like, with all the indoor riding that we do, our intervals are so specific to say like 5 minute, 2 minute, 15 minute, like nice even cutoffs. And then you do something like this that's, I guess, developed by, you could say, like a model of, or like AI, and it's like 48 seconds or like 16 minutes 31 seconds. It, like, those kind of intervals I feel like were throwing me off a bit. But a race is always going to have some sections that you can't predict, and you don't know when you're going to need to surge sometimes to get ahead of a group or not. So that was good. And then Sunday was just actually an aerobic run test for me in the morning, which was good given the fact that I haven't done a lot of running and we're like slowly bringing my run volume back up. I was able to, for 3 miles, knock off about 12 seconds per mile on my aerobic run pace. So like trying to keep it under 155 beat per minute heart rate, went from 742 down to about 730. And then after that, just recovery swim or kick set, like technique stuff, and then easy bike after that. So overall, good weekends. How about you,
Nice.
Sid?
Yeah, so as you said, I had a really similar Saturday. So I just had that 30 by 100 Ironman prep swim. And yeah, I did do it in a wetsuit, so I'm still like, I think that was my only my seventh or eighth time ever swimming with a wetsuit. So the wetsuit really helps me, and I'm still like a newer swimmer. So the added buoyancy in the hips really like does help me, and like it was a pretty noticeable improvement in my swim. So going into the workout, I just was gonna go off like a 140 interval to try to hold 125s. But then the first 100 in, I just swam a 110, which is like my PR. And I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna just what's it just really help that much. And I was like, I'm just gonna hold 120s and keep going off that 140. So I just had 'cause I really thought I was gonna blow up eventually, just get to 125s, but I really just didn't. So I just kept at 120 with the 20-second rest. So I guess I was cheating a little bit by not having the 15-second rest. But that felt really good. I did kind of start overheating probably 2,300 yards in, but the first 2K was okay. But after the first 2K, then it just really started getting real hot. But yeah, that felt really good. Really happy with that swim. So I averaged a 120 for all 30, which is that's like really good for me. Because I'm really not a good swimmer, and I've only been swimming for like 7 months, and I still can't flip turn. So I'm happy with those numbers. Not being able to flip turn.
Have you guys ever tried flip turning with a wetsuit on in a pool?
No, how's that?
Once. Once, I think, and it's very weird feeling.
Yeah, I tried it in the past, and I just remember it's like, yeah, it's weird. It's so slow. I'm just because the wetsuit's trying to keep you up, and then
Mhm.
yeah, that's yeah, yeah, but it is good swimming in a wetsuit. I think once or twice before a race. That's why we had Sage swim in a wetsuit right now because he's getting ready for Ironman Texas, and Mike was going to do Ironman Texas, but because he had some foot issues, he decided to defer. So he still did the same workout. We're kind of making Mike suffer along with Seid and us because
Yeah,
he still has
exactly.
so much time before his next race. So he's kind of being a good training buddy. So
Yep.
we all have something fun to talk about
Yep.
in the weekends.
And then I did that Ironman Texas first 3 hour ride. As Mike said, it was interesting having just like the weird interval times, and just like as he said, does mimic the race a bit better. So mine ended up being like 4 hours because I just like doing a longer warm up for it, and that felt, it wasn't like hard at all, but it was just like it was like a pretty consistent workout, and then my heart rate was just like super high from the swim, especially in the wetsuit. I was just like super hot, and like the heart rate was still fine, or just like higher than normal, so it made it feel harder than it actually was, but it really was like a doable workout. And I just had an easy run, 30 minutes off the bike, and that was really just kept it really nice and light. And this brick was the first time like I actually watched TV like during my bricks for this prep. So during my Ironman Florida prep, I'd watch TV at like every workout, every long ride. But this is the first time I actually watched something. So I watched a T100 while on the bike. But I have been enjoying not watching anything, just having like music and just head down, just like grinding out the workout. Because like during race, I know you're not gonna have the music either, but like I think watching something else like spaces you out, and like you're less present during the workout when you really should be present, because it is probably your most key session of the week. So I'm happy it was kind of fun watching something, especially the T100. That was really enjoyable to watch. And then Sunday I had 1 hour easy endurance on the bike before my run, so that was just an hour of easy endurance before, and then I had a 18-mile 4:32 mile marathon workout, so that was fun. So let me just pull up what I went. So those first 4 miles easy, then 4 mile marathon pace by just built, and then two easy 3 marathon pace built, and then two easy marathon pace build, and then two and one more just finished it off. So I took this like the easy ones, I just like kept it at my race pace goal. So I'm trying to run a 8-ish flat or 8-ish pace at Texas. So for my for my floats, I just did that, and then my heart rate was pretty good on that, and then all the other like marathon paces were all under 8, and they all felt really good. So overall, the long run was good, like I think 750 average with a pretty low heart rate. So my run's finally coming back, and it's just so fun. Like Sundays are definitely my favorite day. Just I love the long run and being able to do them not in pain is it's just the best. Like when you're like injured and can't run, it really is probably the worst feeling. And I'm so happy that it's like finally coming back. And I've never felt like this fit on the run. So I'm really excited for that. And yeah, that was it for me on this weekend. What about you, Parker? What did you do this weekend?
Yeah, so I had a really big weekend. This past week was probably my one of my biggest swim bike run weeks ever. I finished off the week with 60 miles of running, 30,000 yards swimming, and 18 hours of biking, and I'm definitely paying for it a little bit now. I woke up, so today's Tuesday. I woke up this morning. I took yesterday very easy. I think it was the shortest workout my coach has ever given me, just 2K swim. And today was also supposed to be more of a down day, but more a volume. But I woke up today after sleeping for 13 hours and I had a little bit of a cold, a little stuffed up. So I decided to take a full rest day today, which was supposed to be this upcoming Sunday anyway. So it kind of works out. Hopefully I can get back into it tomorrow. But yeah, this Saturday, had a 4K swim first. It was actually the same workout I did 2 weeks ago. It was kind of like a 400 pull, 6x100 swim, 300 pull, 5x100 swim. And I didn't, as I mentioned, I did this same workout 2 weeks ago. And my paces were relatively similar. Actually, I think I might have been a little bit slower, but I've been really working on my form in the swim, and that's something I guess we can kind of talk about when we go over the Lionel video. But I took film during that swim this past week, and my form is definitely getting better. It's just taking a little bit longer, I think, to translate into speed. And this was at the end of a 30K swim week, so the fact that I was even holding roughly the same paces for that swim workout, all of those things considered, I was pretty happy with. I ended up being around 114, 115 for the quicker 100. So yeah, that went relatively well. And then onto the bike, we had a very a big bike. It ended up being 5.5 hours with pretty much 3 hours at Ironman effort. And so it was broken up into kind of three main sets. The first set was, let me pull it up just so I have it. 8 rounds of 8 minutes at 270 watts with 2 minutes easy. So that in itself was pretty much 64 minutes of Ironman effort. I'm trying to target between 260 and 270 watts, depending on how I'm feeling on race day. So we did that. Then we had 15 minutes recovery, and then it was 30 minutes at 250 watts, 5 minutes easy. 25 minutes at 260 watts, 5 minutes easy, and then 20 minutes at 270 watts with 5 minutes easy. And then the last kind of set was 15 rounds of 2.5 minutes at 280 watts and 45 seconds easy in between each. And the first and third round were all done at a lower cadence, so between 60 and 65 RPMs. So that definitely got the legs a little beat up. And I will admit, going into this workout, I was very scared. I did not think I was actually going to be able to finish it because I did something very similar 2 weeks ago. And I remember how I felt at the end of that workout, and this was a progression of that. However, that being said, this actually went really well. I was super stoked with how it felt. It felt easier, if anything, than the one I did 2 weeks ago. And it was longer, and I ended up averaging pretty much close to 235 watts for 5 hours with the warm up and cool down included. So yeah, I was very happy with how that went. And then I had a 7 mile easy run, which I also just watched the 200 race, which made it go by a bit quicker. That was a lot of fun. And it's actually funny that you say that you used to watch videos during your workout, because I know personally, like if it's like a harder workout, I don't know. I just can't. I have to listen to music. I just can't. I can't watch any videos.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's something I was very happy that the 7 mile run was easy and not hard. And then Sunday we had also just a 60 minutes easy bike ride. And I actually made a video of this run workout. So if you guys want to see it, then check my YouTube channel out. It should be up by the time this podcast goes live. But I was supposed to do 25 800-meter repeats at Ironman race pace. But because it was still kind of cold outside here in Chicago at 7 in the morning, I decided to do this on the treadmill. And I like going off of time more than distance on the treadmills just because I don't really know why. I just like doing time workouts more. Because sometimes I guess the pace can be funky even or the distance, even though I have a foot pod, the stride foot pod, sometimes the distance doesn't match up exactly with my watch. So I just go off of time. And so what I did was 25 by 3 minutes with 1 minute easy, which is pretty much like an 800 with a 200 jog recovery. But I also mixed in some incline work in there to break it up a little bit more. So I was doing some at like 5%, 4%, 3%. Yeah. It was actually turned out to be quite a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And I did all 20 miles on the treadmill, which was my longest treadmill run ever. 2 hours and 26 minutes. And yeah, I did an easy technique swim after, but that was pretty much it for the weekend. So yeah, big weekend, but now I'm definitely paying for it a little bit. But as Lionel says, you can only you have to out train everyone. So out train everyone. So that's what the goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So speaking of Lionel, should we talk about his 5 swim rules?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All
Who wants to
right.
list them off for us?
I can list them.
All right.
And we'll kind of go round robin talking about each one. But all right. So rule number 1, swim with people. Rule number 2, have a coach on deck when possible. Uh, Rule number 3, high intensity. Rule number 4, feel fast. And rule number 5, volume. So starting with the top there, swimming with people. How
Well, I
have
guess
you?
we should also mention that these were from his most recent video, where he tells us all how he is getting better at swimming.
Yeah, and he actually kind of proved that by beating Sam Long in the 1500-meter race. So something is finally clicking for Lionel. We'll see if it translates to the race.
Speaking of that, when is his first race? Does anyone know what his first race is or plans to be?
Possibly Oceanside. I think there's
Okay.
quite a few pros are going to Oceanside and then to Texas after.
Did he
Will he
confirm
be
that?
in Texas?
Uh, I don't know if Lionel will be. I don't know if he's made an official like race announcement, but I know I think Joe Skipper and a couple others are going to Oceanside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But is Oceanside before or after
Yeah,
Texas?
it's
It's
before.
before Texas. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming most of the pros that are really targeting the Ironman series are going to be at Texas and Oceanside. Just like that gives you a lot of room if you like mess up those races or just you want to rack up the points early.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So
Swim with people. Mike, do you swim with
yeah,
people?
do I swim with people? No, I do. Uh, Usually I swim alone, but I would say when I started swimming, definitely just would swim alone. Um, didn't know like at all what I was doing, and then it was nice. Allison would occasionally swim with me, but it was kind of tough early on because she was still swimming at school, like for the team. So like that was like the last thing that she wanted to go do more of was swimming. So it was only like during vacations or breaks that we would swim together. But since moving to the city, it's been pretty nice. The pool that I go to, it's always really busy, and there's usually at least 2 to 3 people on a lane. So I've made a couple friends along the way. Just swam with uh 2 guys the other night who kind of tagged along on my swim set, and they were definitely the better swimmers, but they're like, yeah, we'll just go at your pace. And I was like, oh, fantastic. So I let out, and then they were like right on my feet the entire time. But it was good because like what Lionel's saying here is it's like it's pushing you to be faster and be better. And I was hitting some of the best times that I've hit. And then also sometimes I'll try to tag along with Ezra. Like last night, we both did like our own swim set, but we shared a lane doing it, and it just helps. And there's definitely times where like if Ezra is gonna push off, I'll try to push off at the same time and see like just how long I can hold pace with him, which usually isn't all that long because he's a much better swimmer. But it's like there's always like a nugget to chase. So it is helpful swimming with others. How about
Yeah,
you guys?
I don't really swim with like anyone like daily, but like I just my pool's always packed, and like as you were saying, like I do kind of like look at other people, and like I never have like my lane to myself, so it is like a big pool, but it's always like really busy. Everyone that comes like I would say like a real swimmer, so everyone's like better than me. So whenever like someone's in my lane, I always like try to like hang with them or like try to go as fast as I can, just so like people are like clearly watching, and I don't want to be like by far the slowest. So I don't necessarily swim with people, but I definitely need to get into that more. But I do always have people around, and I feel like that definitely does push me.
Yeah, I know personally, whenever I think you need a little bit of both, a little bit of both, swimming with others and swimming by yourself. I know when I was living in Austin, Texas this past year, and I would swim with the NVDM team quite often, it was definitely beneficial to having the others there, like as you mentioned, and having them push you because you're definitely going to go faster. But then I also, this is very similar kind of in running or biking in as well, I guess. When you're training with others, the likelihood that you're gonna go faster, go harder than you're supposed to, I think is also quite a bit
Mhm.
higher. So I think having the opportunity to swim with others, train with others, just in general on occasion is great and definitely beneficial. But I think it's also important for you to make sure that not necessarily you're swimming by yourself or training by yourself, but you're cognizant of the fact that you're not always trying to go, not every session is a race. And having others definitely does help push you and get better, but I think there's also a time and place for, your technique swim when you're just going easy, you're really focusing on your technique and not worried about what others are doing around you. Especially with swimming, because swimming's so much technique based. And so what I found was when I was living in Austin, I definitely try to get in with the team for those harder sets when I definitely wanted some motivation and just swimming with others. It also makes swimming a little bit more enjoyable. I think personally, doing a 4 or 5K swim by yourself can be a little daunting. But if you have others doing it with you, that can definitely make it better and easier. But yeah, I did notice that sometimes maybe I wasn't focused on my form as much when I was swimming with others. And all I was worried about was let's just see how fast I can go. So I think that there's definitely merit to both of, swimming by yourself and swimming with others. You know.
Yeah, and then the second rule was coach on deck. So I personally have never swam with a coach on deck, so I'd love to hear both of your guys' like perspective on that. I guess Parker, you swam a lot in Texas, and Tosh was always there, so I guess that's like a cool talking point. And then, Mike, have you ever like swam with a coach on deck other than Allison, I guess, or do you like consider Allison your coach?
You should probably mention who Allison is.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I have, but if this is anyone's first time listening, Allison is my girlfriend, former collegiate swimmer for Cornell. Um, she's phenomenal. She's a very good coach, especially with identifying technique issues. Like, and that's being I guess what do they call it? Adult onset swimmer. Um, like I've got technique flaws that are pretty obvious, but she points them out, and I don't think she realizes the impact that it has just by saying like one little thing, and like I'll focus on that for the next like week or 2 weeks, and like it definitely helps me pick up at least a second to 2 seconds per 100 once I kind of get it down, and just because like all three of us were still at that level where we didn't grow up swimming, so we're trying to work that muscle memory. But there was another time where I did have a coach on deck, um when I was back up in my hometown Auburn. I would go to the YMCA in Skaneateles, which was the next town over. It was you could go to either one, like the one in Auburn or the one in Skaneateles. I would go to the Skaneateles one because there was a like the coach of the kids swim club there. Um, he was a collegiate swimmer at Syracuse University. Really good guy. He helped me a ton, and I only got to work with him for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then the I think the YMCA changed ownership, and then they closed down the pool for like a good chunk of the summer actually. So after that, I went to another pool, but he was super helpful to have on deck and just like calling out technique problems or just pointing out little things or encouraging you to push harder. And it was good, but it's also funny because I was swimming next to like a bunch of middle schoolers, and like I was the slowest one of the group, so it's like a little bit demoralizing, but
Mhm.
it something to look up to, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's always whenever I swim at the same time as the club team swims at my local pool. You see these like, what looked like to be like 10-year-olds and they're kicking faster than I can swim with 25. It's like, oh, so that's why I'm coming out of the water last in an Ironman. And it's you have people that are like kicking and then they can walk. But yeah, no, on that, like the topic of having a coach on deck, I think the biggest benefit for me, whenever I've had someone that knows what they're talking about on deck watching me, is giving me feedback if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right or not, if that makes any sense. So 95% of the time, I know what I'm supposed to do to go faster. I know, I shouldn't be crossing over, my right arm is going too wide, or my hips are sinking. I know all that stuff, but I don't always know if I'm actually doing it, especially when someone first points it out to me. You say, Parker, your right arm is going too wide. I'm like, okay. So then I think, I think to myself, Parker, don't have your right arm go out too wide. And then I'll watch footage of me swimming and my right arm is still going out super wide. And if I didn't film myself doing that, then I would have just thought to myself that I'm doing it. So having someone on deck and telling me, or yeah, reinforcing, Parker, you're doing that right. Keep doing that. So I know, because then I know what I'm feeling, and then I can say, okay, that's good. So when I want to feel like that when I'm swimming, and so I think that has been the biggest benefit of having a coach or someone that knows swimming on deck, is just that positive reinforcement. So once you have that feeling down and that's what it's supposed to feel like, then just once you get that down, it's easier to continue to do that over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you just have to keep taking videos. I mean, I guess you could just keep taking videos of yourself, but yeah, I still think that having that coach on deck and that instant feedback also, because I've had it before where I've taken a video of myself and then I've sent it to someone, but by then I'm not swimming anymore, so then I kind of forgotten how that felt, and so having that instantaneous feedback with someone on deck where you can go in and just like nail that muscle memory down, I think is huge.
yeah, and that's one of the hardest parts about any technique change is actually like doing what you're supposed to do. And like it may feel one way, but it doesn't look that way. And that's when I told Allison the other night, I said, "Hey, I think all the technique stuff that you told me is paying off. I definitely like had one of my best swim sets." And she's like, I'll be the judge of that." Like, wow, I swam fast, but maybe it wasn't great. Maybe I just was like ready to go at threshold. But yeah.
Sweet. Well, speaking of going fast, let's touch on feeling fast and then we can go on to high intensity. But yeah, what do you guys think of feeling fast? I know in the Lionel video, something they were saying about feeling fast was that have Lionel put on fins, I think, or then put on some like drag equipment and then take it off. What do you guys think of that?
So I know like we start off most of our swims with like a warm up with like having the fin. So I always start with the pool with my fin. So I'm always like swimming like the fastest of the whole time of the day because I'm the freshest and the fins starting the set. So I guess that kind of does translate to me, I guess, because I always do warm up with like the fins and definitely do feel the fastest of the whole workout during that warm up part. But
Do
I
you
never
think feeling, because the idea with the fins for the warm up is more so, when you're first getting in the water, it helps get your hips up and just helps you get into a better rhythm and technique. But do you think that the actual, going fast translates over to, you actually swimming faster without the fins?
I personally, I don't know. I don't think I've been swimming long enough to really know. I would probably say that definitely like warms me up, like up to the point where I feel like I can go a little faster during my so like if I started my swim with like a warm up with just 300 swim, I think I'm gonna and that or warm up with 300 swim with fins on. I think the main setup I'm gonna go faster when I have the fins on, I would probably say. Because I think I'd already get, but that doesn't, I don't know if that's being like, because the fins are also like lower, it's like you're going faster with like a bit less effort, kind of. I don't know. So maybe that's what's affecting that, but I'm not too sure. What do you think, Mike?
Um, I definitely think the fins help me warm up. I actually really enjoy starting off all of our warm ups with that, and it's kind of like that like bike warm up that you and Parker do a lot of the time to like kind of it gives you a an idea of how the bike workout is about to go. That's
Yeah.
how I when I put the fins on, I know like from the form goggles, like if I'm in there with the fins and we have a 300 or 400 warm up, if I'm averaging 115 per 100 or better with the fins on, I'm like, okay, yeah, today's probably gonna be a fast day. Like everything is just like in sync, like pull with my kick. But then there's other days where I get in and the with the fins and I'm like doing 120s and I'm like, I could do 120s without fins on. What's going on? And I just don't feel fast. I think maybe the like a lot of our swim sets, they start with the swim kick pull and then we go into some descends.
Yeah.
I feel like descends help me more in terms
Mhm.
of feeling
Agree.
faster and like getting prepared for that set because on that last one, and I like when it's 2 rounds through, so it's like slow to fast and then back through again.
Mm.
Um, I that helps me like feel like I'm gonna have a fast set.
Yeah, I really agree with the descends. I really like those.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much I am a fan of using the fins for kind of feeling fast because I always feel like my stroke is a little bit different when I'm wearing fins. Kind of like how Mike said, I like them. I love them for warm up. The exact same thing that you do. When I get in the water and I'm warming up and my pace is, that 115 to 120, I'm like, okay, today's gonna be a pretty good day. And then when I get in the water, I'm sort of like, like 130s with fins, like, oh boy, we're in for a rough one today, boys. But yeah, going fast with fins, I just feel yeah, I just don't know how much that would carry over for me. That being said, however, I think some of the other tools they're using to go fast, whether that be the resistance, I think maybe like a parachute he was saying. I do think there is quite a bit to be said about that because I know personally I have a pair. I think I have almost every resistance tool you can get for swimming. I have drag sleeves, drag socks, drag mitts. I have a brick kickboard. I have a parachute. Um, I think that's it. I'm not sure if I have anything else. But whenever I have a very hard threshold set coming up, like 10 by 100, whatever, any type of best repeatable average set, I always make sure to do, 2 to 400 yards of, either with the drag sleeves, drag socks. And I really do find that when I take them off, the first 1 or 2 reps of that threshold set, man, it's like butter. It's like I am swimming. I feel effortless. Obviously, it doesn't last too long, but I do think that that feeling does help. And the difference. It's almost like when a batter warms up. You know how they have sometimes they'll put like a weight on their bat. Yeah.
Mm.
And so they start swinging the bat, and when they take it off, they can just go so much faster. I find the same thing with the resistance stuff, the resistance gear, so the mitts. And actually, I think that the biggest, my favorite is the socks, and I think that's because they suck the most too. So I find the biggest difference being with the drag socks. When I take those off, man, I really do feel like a jet engine. So I think there's those have been useful for myself, but yeah, I don't know about like swimming fast with fins. I think it could be a good workout, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Lionel's swim coach like he said he was like doing everything to make Lionel feel fast. Like they even to the point where they're actually pulling him. And I've seen that when I would go to watch Allison swim meets, some of the teams they would have like a resistance band, but it would be like in the opposite direction. Like they'd
Yeah.
be pulling them and they're like flying across the pool. And it was kind of cool to watch it. I just I don't have any experience with it, so I don't know if that would be helpful to me or not.
Hmm. Yeah. Anyway, going on to high intensity. What do you guys think? Should every swim be high intensity hard, or should it not be like that? Sade?
I would say like all your quality like sessions really do need to have high intensity. So like, let's say I think me and Mike probably swim what? At least I swim 4 times a week, probably Mike a little more now. But I swim 4 times a week. I'd say 3 out of those 4 are all really intense, and then one, like the Monday or Tuesday coming off the weekend, is low intensity. But that I think that low intensity swim is like more for recovery, not improving your swim really. Like a lot of it is like form work, so I guess that's improving your swim. But other than the form work, it's like a lot of kicking. I find like after a big weekend, like today I did my swim and there was like some optional warm down and I included just more kicking. So like the more kicking I can get on that low intensity day, like that really helps me, especially with like my run volumes. Like last week was I had a 40-mile run week, so that's like pretty big for me. So that one low intensity swim, just having a lot of like form work and I guess kicking really works well for me because that just like loosens up my leg for the rest of the week. But then every Wednesday, Friday, and then now Saturday, like all of those swims are like intense, and I think that really does help because I feel like you do have to be, at least at my level, I'm just not a good swimmer. Like I have to be like swimming
Well,
intent.
talk about your swim block. Remember that swim block we had you in?
Yeah, no. So I'll talk about that, but I feel like that applies more to the other our last rule. No,
Oh yeah, we'll touch on that.
let's talk about my swim block during the last rule. But I feel like high intensity is just really key. So if you're swimming like 4 or 5 times a week, I would say almost every swim should be high intensity, other than like maybe one recovery coming off a big weekend. But I know like Ari Clow, like just the Australian method, like every day it was an intense day. There's like no easy days. I feel like most of these like elite swim squads, they do preach the like high intensity like every day. I'm just not at the level where I think I can like my body can recover doing high intensity like 6 times a week. I don't put in that much like volume. I have like a job. I can't just train 24/7, but I feel like high intensity really is key for building your swim. What do you guys think?
I've got kind of a little bit of a different view on it, I suppose. And part of my belief maybe that not everything should be high intensity comes from kind of the like where we are as swimmers compared to maybe where Lionel is, or where like maybe someone listening to this, if we have a lot of listeners, I don't know yet. Maybe they're just starting out in swimming. Like if you're just starting out, I don't think that there's a need for that much high intensity. And the reason I say that is because I think you're going to start developing bad habits and like grooving bad habits. Going back to my days in golf, like if you are working like poor swing habits or bad form in swimming and you start throwing in all this high intensity, like there's a good chance you're just like compounding those issues and it's gonna become an issue, like become a problem long term. So I think and it worked out pretty well for me. Like I feel like more recently, at least like since starting to work with Parker, we've added a whole lot more high intensity and it has certainly paid off for me. But early on when I was swimming, even the last year to 2 years, I did so much like not the total volume wasn't more per swim. It was just like each swim set might have been longer, like doing 3 by 1,000 or doing several 500s or 600s. And I think that partly it was to build up an aerobic base and just to like make sure that I was capable of swimming, like say a fairly good 70.3 swim and like feeling comfortable to finish like that swim. But now it's kind of shifted to like, okay, I've got pretty good form. I've got a good aerobic base in swimming. Now we're throwing in high intensity and I'm getting a lot faster. So I'm excited to see how that's going to pay off towards like an Ironman or a half Ironman swim.
Have you ever talked with Allison and talked to her about what her practices used to look like?
Yeah. I think like it was insane. I think they would be like, I guess maybe this is more towards the, well, no, actually the high intensity and the volume. I just feel like they would get hit with almost 10,000 a day, probably at least. Some days they're doing doubles, so like they might have like 6K in the morning, sometimes 6K at night. and a strength session. Not every day was strength, but I remember the strength because that's our team used to lift at the same time as their team, and like they would either swim before and then lift, or they'd lift and then I think sometimes go and swim after the lift. Which, like, if you told me to go do a strength session and then hop in the pool and do like a threshold set, I think I'd cramp like probably 200 yards in. Um, but I mean, she did all of the strokes, but she primarily was a breaststroker and then did some IM as well. But it seemed like she was kind of in an interesting group where they split their team up. They had like the distance group and then the sprinters. And because she would do like 100s, like 100 breasts, 200 breasts, 200 IM, and then sometimes 400 IM and some relays, she could like be in either group. Like they would mix it up. So it was like some days she got hit with like crazy volume, and then other days it was like a lot of sprinting, at least from what I remember her telling me.
Yeah, from I was watching the GTN show, and they had one of the questions. It was the Coach's Corner episode, and one of the questions was on the same topic. The guy wrote in, he's like, "Yeah, should every swim be hard? If I'm swimming like 3 days a week, 4 days a week, should every swim be like very hard?" And I do think, kind of as Seid mentioned, and Mike kind of as well. I think if you're just starting out and you still don't have the technique down, then you really do want to focus on that as well. However, that being said, you also do want to work on improving your fitness. And, the only way to get faster at the end of the day is, swim faster. I mean, you can do all the technique in the world. However, if you're not, trying to swim as not maybe not as fast as you can, but at a higher speed, you're not going to get that much faster, I think. And so I think finding a balance of both, but then as you do progress and your technique gets better and you do have better habits, then I do think that you can handle more intensity. And kind of as Mike just talked about with Allison, I have never heard of a top level swimmer, or one of the best swimmers in Ironman, going over their swim training saying, "We swam easy a lot of the time." It's always, no, every swim was hard, every swim was long, and so I think at the end of the day, once you do have that base level of technique down and you really want to make that next jump to that top level s- swim fitness, you need to hammer the intensity. I think even more so than with the bike or the run. Why exactly? I don't really know. But and I think I'm maybe talk and we can kind of go on to the last rule, volume now. But there's people out there that run a lot, and I think there's bikers out there that bike a lot that aren't necessarily fast. But I've
Mhm.
yet to find a swimmer that swims more than 30,000 yards a week that isn't fast.
Yeah.
It's just, I've yet to see it happen. And so I think with swimming especially, I think volume, yeah, can be king. I know personally, my best times in the pool have always been at the end or in the middle of like a swim heavy block where I'm swimming a lot, a lot, a lot. And yeah, that's just me personally. And yeah, kind of as Mike said, whenever I've talked to my dad, who used to be a swimmer, or any other collegiate swimmers, they were swimming, 10 to 12,000 yards a day. And, maybe do you need that much? Maybe not. But I do think that there is something to be said about, with swimming, especially the more you swim, I think the better you're going to get.
Yeah, 100%. I think out of the five rules, like I think volume definitely, in my opinion, is probably most important. As you said, like the more you swim, you're just gonna get better naturally. And there's always everyone always says like the rule is like the more you swim, like your body just finds it's like the natural way to just go the fastest it can be. So like yeah, you're carrying so much fatigue, and you're swimming that much. But it is a double-edged sword. So like your body's always gonna want to like do what's best, but like that can be like picking up bad habits too. But in the end, I think it's usually like it just prevails. Like the more you swim, the faster you're gonna be. And like person like Parker was mentioning earlier, so after Florida, we had a bike block into a swim block. So then we had 2 week swim block. And after that, my swim is just like drastically better. Like just 2 weeks of having what I think it was a 20K week and then a 22K week. I usually swam, I think 9 to 10K for my Ironman Florida block. And after those 2 weeks, like my swim has like been drastically better. Like coming into that block, I think I was like holding 130 average for hundreds, like pretty like comfortably and easily. But then after it's like now it's like 125. It was like a 5 second, at least for me, because I'm still new, so I see like a lot of improvement. But after those 2 weeks, like massive improvement for me. So I just really love having the volume. And then during this block, I've been trying to get like I think it was I've been getting like 12K usually a week, and that's been working great. But then definitely after Texas, I definitely do want to have a pretty big swim block. So I did have 2 week swim block. I think I want to have like a 3 or 4 week swim block if possible, because I think I have a lot of space in between after Texas and Maryland. So I think really focusing on the swim would be beneficial for me. I love the ball. Like at first I really hate, like it's brutal like the first day having that double swim. Like finishing like a double swim day just feels so like great. Like the first morning, like oh, it doesn't feel that great, and then you come back the second time in the pool, and somehow you just smash the second workout. Like that's like the best feeling ever. So I really do personally like the volume, even though it sometimes can suck. But I think it really does help your swim overall. What do you think, Mike?
So I pulled up my Strava swim graph here to look at kind of my volume over the last what is it, 12 weeks, I think it shows. And um going back to maybe the summertime, I think when I was just doing like prep for 70.3s, I definitely wasn't swimming that much. Like my focus is more on the bike and the run. My swim stayed pretty stagnant last year, maybe even got a tad bit slower, but like I was consistently coming out of the water around 32 minutes, and like that's just kind of how it was. And I think with my old coach, like his belief was it was kind of like the gap analysis that Olav talks about. Like my swimming was decent. And it was like middle of the pack in like a normal 70.3 non-world championship level race. So he's like, we could be in the pool 4 to 5 times a week, and it may not provide you that many gains, or we could try to focus on your bike and run and like try to pick up more time that in that area. So that's what we did. Maybe I was maybe on a big week was hitting 9K per week. But like now, since starting with Parker, we're adding in more high intensity and definitely more volume. So to kick off the start of the year, I actually was at like 15,000 yards that week, but I just remembered that was because we did the 10 by or 100 times 100 swim jump. So like after that though, I was like my shoulders, my lats, like everything was just like messed up for 2 weeks. Still was fine, no injury, but just was like so fatigued. But from that point until I think it was 3 weeks ago, I kind of averaged like right around just a bit over 9K per week, and then bumped it up to 14,750, 1550, and then 16,025 yards last week, which was my biggest swim week. Um, and it's helping. It's definitely helping. So now, like, I think my goal now is if I am swimming 4 times a week, sometimes it's five, but four is pretty good for me. And I'm kind of hoping to get close to that 15K a week number, and that seems like a good sweet spot for me to improve.
Sweet. Well, there you guys go. Let us know in the, I don't know, if you're listening on Spotify, you can drop a comment, or on our Instagram or wherever. If you guys agree with us or not, or Lionel or not. Yeah, I really am interested to see how Lionel does in swimming in his upcoming races, because it is one thing to improve in the pool, but it's a completely other thing to improve open water. That's something I've learned. It usually takes some time for it to translate. But yeah, it'll make for an interesting year, I think, to say the least.
Yeah. And like on the topic of open water, I also think like for anyone that has access to open water swimming, it's definitely a good idea to get in there and do that. Like at least maybe if you can once a week, like if you're swimming 4 times a week, maybe one of them you throw in like an open water swim. If you're concerned about like at least getting prepared for the open water swim. But um I used to do that a lot and over the summertime when the weather was nice, and get in the lake and throw my wetsuit on. And that's part of the other reason why I didn't do our last big swim with a wetsuit, because like I've done a lot of wetsuit swimming. So,
Mhm.
but you can kind of lose speed if you try to do too much open water swimming. So it is good to be in the pool as well.
Yeah, I know when I went up to Canada last summer and I trained with some of the pros up there. and they were open water swimming, at least 2 times a week. And man, it's I felt like a complete newbie again. It was incredible. They'd use me as a rabbit, so they'd give me like a 3-minute head start, and they said, "All right, go chase Parker." So yeah, um, yeah, open water definitely is a whole nother monster, but we can save that for a different episode because this one is getting pretty long, but we still have one more segment to wrap it up with. I think we'll do the Said's already looking at his gels. We're gonna talk about gel of the week. If this is your first time tuning in, we usually like to end our episodes by talking about a new gel or endurance product that we tried. Now we are all using currently primarily the new raw fuel that just came out. We've all been huge fans of them. They partnered with NVDM team this year, and if you guys want to help support the podcast, you can pick some up for yourself. It's the new raw fuel under the endurance tab. You can use code NVDM to save 15%. We'll have a link in the description box of whatever platform you're listening or watching on. We are also on YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. But Say, do you want to kick us off? What new tasty snack did you have this weekend that you tried out?
Yeah, so this weekend Mike was talking about the SIS Science and Sport Beta Fuel gels. So yeah, I got to try two flavors. I tried the orange flavor and then the strawberry and lime, and both were good. So I personally like the regular Science and Sport gels. They're like, I know Mike tried them and didn't like them, but they're different than every other gel. They're like more liquidy, so I always feel like they're kind of like mini like Go-Gurt or something. Like it's kind of like like liquidy yogurt consistency and really light. Where these beta fuel ones are a lot thicker and have a lot more carbs in it. So this they're both 40 grams carbs, and both of the flavors were surprisingly really good. So they're a lot stronger, and the consistency is a lot thicker. But I enjoyed both of them. I had them on my long run. It didn't upset my stomach at all during an 18-mile long run. I definitely use them. I think I'm definitely going to use them during Ironman Texas just to get some more flavor in and try to get as many carbs as I can during the run. Well, what about you, Mike? What did you try this week?
Uh, I actually tried the same things you did. I was using the Science and Sport Beta Fuels, but I tried some of the flavored ones,
Mm-hmm.
and the strawberry kiwi was pretty good. But I'm looking forward to this upcoming weekend trying a different one, the one that has nootropics and a lot of caffeine in it. So
What
we'll see.
flavor is that? Is that the apple one?
That's the apple one. I like that one a lot.
I
Yeah,
think I tried that one in the past before. But
yeah.
this weekend, my new actually, so I'm gonna talk about two. I'm gonna talk about a kind of a bar and then a gel. So the bar, I guess it was. I'm not sure. I got it in the feed, but I've never heard it. It's called, I think, a Betty Lewis brand, and I'm not too sure what they make. It's just the one product I think I saw in the feed, and it was called the Golden Smackers Salted Caramel Bar. And boy, I had this, I think, 3 to 4 hours into my ride. It was delicious. It literally tasted like a Snickers. And it has, I think, 7, 8 grams of protein, relatively high in carbs. It's very small though. It's probably half the size of a Snickers, but it has the same amount of calories, about 200 calories, I think. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, that's for sure. But man, it was very tasty. If you guys like your caramel chocolate, I would highly recommend checking out the Golden Smacker Salted Caramel Bar from Betty Lewis. As I mentioned, it was on the feed. And then also kind of going along that same line, I tried a caramel latte gel from Torque. Now I've tried, I think, quite a few Torque gels, and I think they're from Europe. Man, they're very tasty. This one was also very good. It really did taste like a sweet caramel latte. Had some caffeine in it, and it was small, and it still had like it was pretty much the size of a goo, if not smaller. But it still had close to 30. It was either 27 or 37 grams of carbs, so it's very heavy on the carbs, which I enjoyed. And it tasted delicious, but definitely sweet and pretty concentrated. So if you guys don't have a huge sweet tooth, then maybe not for you. But yeah, personally, I was a big fan of those two products this week. So there we go. Any last words for this episode, guys?
No, I think that's it for me. That was a good one.
I think that wraps it up.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We would greatly appreciate a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, wherever you're listening. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, there is a little review option. So if you guys could leave us a review, we appreciate it. And if you have any questions you want us to answer, then feel free to message us on Instagram. All our socials in the description box, or you can drop the comment, as I mentioned, on the Spotify Q&A option. But that's going to do it. We'll catch you back here for episode 8, I think, next week. All right. See you guys in the next one.
See you guys.
Yeah.
I think daylight savings time is stupid. I think we should just have one time year round.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a nice shift right now.
Yeah. How are you guys feeling?
Dude, I'm pissed. My sauna was closed. I'm so heated.
Pun
Like,
intended.
Yeah, so annoying. No, but I feel good. Just nice recovery day. Yesterday was just such the worst day ever. It was like 8 hours, like 6 different car places. Like the hardest day ever.